Sometimes there is a great truth that everyone knows but no one dares to say out loud. That is exactly why they have always kept something from you. Because they were deathly afraid of you discovering that power, that intuition, that potential within you. They were terrified that you would wake up, that you would see the truth, that your eyes would lift the veil. Now it is too late. The secret they have been hiding is now coming out. They are panicked because they have lost control, because they can no longer hide the fire in your eyes. No matter what they do, they cannot turn off the light of truth. There is no turning back now. The time has come for that great secret, and that secret will free not only you, but all those who seek this truth. If you are ready, step forward to reveal these truths. Don't just be a spectator, be a part of the story. With your support, we will become a giant family of 5,000 people. Subscribe now, turn on notifications and join us. Because this is the story of those who break the chains of fear and awaken to the power of truth. You were born for this moment, and nothing will ever be the same again. It's a lot like a storm rolling across a dry field, friend. At first, the sky grows heavy and the air changes. There's a feeling that something big is about to break loose, even before the first drop of rain hits the ground. For a long time, everything seemed still, as if the world itself was holding its breath. But sooner or later, the clouds can't hold back what they carry. The wind shifts, the thunder rumbles, and what was hidden in the heavens is finally poured out for all to see. Life brings those same kinds of turning points, especially for folks who carry a calling deep in their bones. Some people spend years hiding the truth behind well-practiced smiles and thick curtains, thinking that as long as they keep quiet, nothing will ever change. They move in the shadows, believing the darkness is a safe place to bury what they don't want the world to know. But, chosen one, the day always comes when the weight of hidden things grows too heavy, and the very secrets meant to keep you bound become the key to your freedom. It's as if you've been living in a house where the foundation was poured in silence, and now every wall begins to tremble. The whispers that once felt far away start to grow louder, pressing in from every corner until there's no escape from the truth. Those who helped build the illusion, those who played their part in keeping the real story under wraps, begin to realize that their time is up. Just like a tree can only hide its rotten roots for so long before the storm comes to test its strength, so too do the hidden things come to the surface in due season. You know, sometimes the real miracle isn't in what gets revealed, but in how the light exposes what's been growing in secret. The pressure builds, not to break you, but to push out everything that's not meant to remain. Those who thought they were safe behind the curtains now stand exposed under the bright lamp of accountability. The time for pretending is over, and everyone who was part of the cover-up feels the heat as the spotlight shifts their way. In this kind of moment, it's not just about consequences, it's about the whole landscape changing, making room for a new story to begin. There are folks who thought they could control the narrative, moving pieces behind the scenes like chess masters. They didn't expect the board to flip, for every secret to come tumbling out like coins from a torn pocket. Some tried to rewrite the past, erasing tracks in the sand, but destiny has a way of recording every step, even when nobody's looking. The wind of truth can sweep through the highest towers and the quietest basements, uncovering what was never meant to last. And for the one who's walked through years of uncertainty, wondering if justice would ever arrive, this is the season when the scales finally tip. There's a relief that comes, not from vengeance, but from the knowledge that what was hidden in darkness has finally been brought into the light. It's not about punishment, it's about release. The chains fall off, and the weight lifts, and suddenly there's room to breathe again. Every life has its midnight hour, a moment when everything that was carefully tucked away can no longer be kept down. It's as if the whole universe holds its breath, waiting for the first rays of dawn to break over the horizon. When the morning comes, what once looked like ruin is revealed as the ground for a fresh harvest. The tears you cried in secret become the rain that waters your new season. The stories whispered behind your back become the testimony that propels you forward. It's a spiritual law, friend. Whatever is sown in secrecy will one day be reaped in the open. That's why you don't have to fear the unveiling. What's coming to the surface isn't just the dirt of the past. It's the foundation for something holy, something unbreakable, something that no amount of deceit can destroy. In these moments, you're not just a survivor, you're the forerunner of a new day. The ones who tried to keep you quiet are about to learn that the truth has a voice all its own. Maybe you spent a long time wondering if your story mattered, if your journey was seen by anyone but God. But when the curtains finally fall and the dust begins to settle, it becomes clear that nothing was ever wasted. Every struggle, every silent prayer, every time you kept going when it would have been easier to give up, it all comes together, like threads woven into a tapestry only heaven could design. The hour for hiding has ended, not just for those who concealed the truth, but for everyone who ever doubted their own worth. This is the season for stepping out, for standing tall in the sunlight, for letting your story be the beacon that draws others out of the shadows. What once weighed you down now becomes your testimony, and what once was shame becomes your strength. So when you feel the ground shaking beneath you, when you see the old structures crumble and the old secrets unravel, remember that you were always meant for this unveiling. Like a pearl formed in darkness, you're being brought into the open to shine, to inspire, to remind the world that nothing can keep the chosen hidden forever. The day of reckoning isn't about revenge, it's about redemption. And when the last stone is turned, what you find will be more precious than gold. A life rebuilt on truth, courage, and the unstoppable favor of the one who always knew your name. Legends, miracles, prophecies. Subscribe to see what history forgot. It's a lot like an old well at the back of a quiet farm, one that's been covered with a heavy stone lid for years. Rain keeps falling, the earth keeps shifting, and nobody notices just how much pressure builds beneath the surface. At first, all looks peaceful on top. The grass grows, the birds sing, but deep underneath, the water keeps rising, pushing harder and harder against that heavy lid until the day comes when it can't be contained any longer. In a single moment, what was hidden springs forth, changing the whole landscape in an instant. Life has its own hidden wells, friend. Sometimes the things we tuck away, the emotions we bottle up, the memories we hide for the sake of peace, those burdens just keep collecting, drop by drop, year after year. And before you know it, that secret reservoir has filled to the brim. The very weight meant to keep the past under control becomes too heavy to hold, and suddenly, everything that was covered over is breaking through, rushing into the open. What makes these moments even more profound is that the ones connected to the hidden places in our lives aren't strangers. They're the people who shared our table, who held our hand in quiet rooms, who laughed with us at the crossroads. They are the threads running through the tapestry of our most precious and private chapters. Their voices are woven into our prayers. Their faces appear in the stories we tell ourselves about belonging, love, and trust. But here's the twist. Sometimes the comfort we sought turned out to be smoke and mirrors. We reached for reassurance, looking for understanding, and instead found ourselves holding hands with confusion and disappointment. In those seasons, it's easy to doubt our own perception, to wonder if we're just imagining the cracks in the foundation. But chosen one, the truth is that sometimes what glitters isn't gold, and not every hand offered is meant to steady you. Some only press down on the stone, trying to keep the lid in place a little longer. There's a kind of heartache that comes from realizing the very people you leaned on were helping to hide what you needed to face. It's like sitting by that old well, hearing the faint rumble below, but believing the surface calm means you're safe. The reality is, the soul knows when something isn't right. There's a tension that won't let up, a pressure that keeps building until the day the truth can no longer be ignored. Yet, in God's economy, nothing hidden stays hidden forever. When the flood finally comes, it doesn't just wash away the dust, it brings with it a new beginning. All those hidden waters rise to the surface, cleansing the soil, making way for fresh growth. The shock of the reveal, the surprise of seeing familiar faces in unexpected roles, may sting for a season. But as the waters settle, you discover a new strength, a wisdom earned through facing what you once tried so hard to forget. That's the way of the chosen. The journey isn't always about sunny days and easy answers. Sometimes it's about weathering the storm, standing by the well as the stones begin to shake, and trusting that what breaks loose will not destroy you, but set you free. It's a spiritual principle. What the enemy meant for harm, God transforms into the very thing that waters your future. And when you look back on the moments when comfort seemed real but proved empty, you'll see that they were not wasted. Every disappointment, every letdown, every false promise became part of the path that led you here, wiser, stronger, more compassionate. The ones who helped carry your burdens may have stumbled, but you kept walking, step by step, toward the truth. So don't fear the rising waters or the shaking stones. This unveiling is part of your calling. The ones who were woven into your story, whether as helpers or hinderers, have only made you more determined to seek what's real and lasting. When the old well bursts open, let the living water flow. Let it cleanse, heal, and prepare the ground for something far greater than anything you've lost. It's like planting a seed in what you think is good soil, expecting a flower to bloom, only to find that the roots are being watched, measured, and pulled at every chance. Sometimes, the garden you hoped would bring you comfort is actually a place where your every move is tracked, and what you thought was sunshine is really a spotlight meant to monitor your growth, not nurture it. There are times in life when the very people who offered a shoulder to lean on were really keeping notes, not offering arms. You'd pour out your heart late at night, hoping for understanding, thinking you'd found a safe harbor for your soul. You'd reveal the secret aches, the small hopes, the deep wounds, believing those moments were sacred, moments meant for healing, not for record-keeping. But behind the smiles and the soft words, there were watchers, not comforters. They listened with nods and gentle reassurances, but their eyes were always calculating, their minds always making lists. Every tear you shed, every joy you shared, every new lesson you learned. These treasures, which should have stayed in the sacred vault of friendship or love, were collected instead, sorted, and stored away for reasons that had nothing to do with your healing. It's a bitter lesson to learn, realizing that what you thought was real concern was just a ledger being kept. Words you spoke in trust were written down like inventory, passed quietly from one hand to another in shadows. Even your greatest breakthroughs, those shining moments when you thought you'd finally found your footing, were just another item for someone else's collection. Your sincerity was never the destination, it was only the supply. Sometimes the world sends people into your life who seem like healers, but who are really there to gather. They take the most authentic parts of you, the words you whispered in prayer, the fears you voiced on trembling nights, the glimmers of faith you shared when hope was thin, and instead of holding those pieces close, they catalog them. Not for your sake, but for theirs. Not to lift you, but to keep you under watch. And yet, friend, here's what I want you to know. No matter how many notebooks were filled behind your back, your story was never just a collection for someone else's shelf. God saw every tear and every moment of vulnerability. What was meant to monitor you is being turned into a testimony that will bless you. All that was stored away in secret is coming to light, not to shame you, but to set you free from the weight of carrying what was never yours to begin with. So if you ever feel like the kindness you received was conditional, or the support came with strings attached, you're not alone. You're not broken. You're being refined. Every moment of surveillance, every hidden motive, only proves how valuable your light really is. The world keeps tabs on what it cannot control, but heaven celebrates what it cannot contain. You are not inventory, you are inheritance. That's why you're moving into a new season, chosen one, where only what's genuine remains. The harvest is coming, and this time the flowers that bloom will belong to you alone. Let them count what they want, because your true worth is beyond any ledger, beyond any secret file, beyond any shadowy motive. The God who knows your name is about to turn every hidden record into a reason for your restoration. And as you walk forward, wiser and freer, you'll look back and realize, even the watchers were only a sign of how rare and precious your spirit really is. What they tried to capture will become the very evidence of your victory. Because when the light shines, nothing hidden can stay in the ground, and what was stored for harm will be turned for good, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Imagine walking into a small-town farmer's market at sunrise, believing every basket is filled with honest fruit, no locks, no price tags, just trust. That's how the heart feels when it's young in spirit, open wide, wandering through life's stalls with hope in its eyes and innocence in its step. In those days, it seemed everyone you met was offering something sweet, a smile, a gentle touch, A promise that felt as warm as the morning sun. Those early relationships, those first friendships and budding loves, felt like finding rare gems in a riverbed. You believed that laughter was a sign of loyalty, that a simple handshake could anchor a lifetime, that being seen and truly known by another soul was a treasure beyond counting. The air was thick with the sense that something holy was unfolding, as if heaven itself had sent just the right people to walk beside you. But behind the scenes, not every handshake was as pure as it seemed. Sometimes the best-looking apples in the basket were polished to hide the bruise underneath. In that gentle marketplace of the heart, there were folks with hidden ledgers, counting each kindness, each gift of trust, not as a blessing but as a number to be tallied up. What you thought was a gift was sometimes a transaction in disguise. You see, even as joy bloomed and laughter danced between friends, somewhere in the shadows, people were adding up their own secret profits. The hugs you gave, the tears you shared, the long nights of honest conversation, these were not always held as sacred. For some, every moment was weighed and measured, every confession stored away like coins in a purse, and every sacred encounter became a line in someone else's secret account book. There's a special kind of heartache that comes when you realize some people see relationships as stepping stones rather than sacred ground. The touch that felt like comfort was sometimes just the start of a bargain. The encouragement you craved came with invisible strings. Smiles were handed out like receipts, stamped and counted, because for some, the business of belonging is just that, a business, not a blessing. Yet through all of this, you kept showing up with your heart unlocked and your hope alive. You didn't know the rules of the hidden market. You only knew that your purpose was to give, to believe, to keep sowing love even if the harvest seemed uncertain. The world may have tried to turn holy moments into currency, but what they couldn't counterfeit was the genuine spirit within you. In the grand scheme, every act of sincere love you gave was a deposit in heaven's bank, and nothing was ever truly lost. For the chosen, there is always a higher accountant. What others tried to keep as profit, God turns into your inheritance. And as the years go by, you learn to recognize the difference between genuine and false, between those who barter and those who bless. You stop looking for value in the receipts others hide and start finding it in the open sky, the honest embrace, and the quiet peace that comes from walking true. So if you ever feel like your trust was spent on someone else's game, remember this. The seeds you sowed in faith will return to you in ways you cannot imagine. No counterfeit connection, no secret ledger, can block the blessings that are appointed for you. The world may have tried to put a price on your sincerity, but your value is beyond anything that can be counted, measured, or exchanged. If you love a good mystery, subscribe for the untold truths of Scripture. This is the journey of the chosen, to walk with innocence, to love without fear, and to let God Himself turn every hidden transaction into a testimony of how faith, when given freely, always comes back multiplied. And one day, when you look back over the seasons, you'll see that every handshake, every laugh, and every heartbreak was adding up, not in someone else's account, but in the divine legacy that belongs to you alone. It's like walking down a long country road at dusk, feeling the cool breeze on your skin, when suddenly you hear the distant sound of a warning bell. You pause, wondering if it's just the wind, but your heart says, "Pay attention." Still, with the sun setting and the world growing quiet, it's tempting to ignore the bell and keep walking, eager to reach the porch light at the end of the lane where friends and laughter await. That's how it goes sometimes for the chosen. The wisdom deep inside, the same wisdom God planted there before you took your first breath, gives a gentle nudge, a soft tap on the shoulder. But instead of listening, you find yourself turning up the volume of the world, letting the need to belong drown out the quiet voice of discernment. You sit through conversations that don't quite feel right, brush off strange pauses or scripted words, telling yourself, it's probably nothing. After all, nobody wants to walk alone when the night falls, and the promise of friendship feels so warm. What you didn't realize then, and what many only discover in hindsight, is that you were never just a passerby. You were placed at the center of something far more orchestrated, a living, breathing experiment where your every move was studied, your reactions carefully noted. Those odd encounters, the ones that made you question yourself, were not accidents. They were signposts along a mapped-out route designed to study how a chosen one awakens, how a soul set apart responds to challenge and change. See, there are seasons in life when you find yourself at the crossroads of comfort and calling. It's easy to cling to the familiar, to tell yourself that everything is fine, to silence the questions because the answers feel too heavy. But the journey of the chosen is never random. God doesn't allow your story to be left to chance. Every person placed in your path, every strange conversation, every time you felt like the odd one out, it was all allowed so you could learn to trust that voice inside, the voice that knows the difference between real and imitation. Looking back, you see it so clearly. The moments you ignored your instincts, the invitations you accepted even when your heart whispered, "Not this time." They were all lessons in listening. And as the truth unfolds, you come to realize that your life was being watched, measured, even tested, not to harm you, but to teach you the power of discernment. You weren't a random subject in someone else's experiment. You were the main character in a divine curriculum crafted to reveal your spiritual gifts. So the next time that bell rings in your spirit, the next time something inside says, "Pay attention," remember this: you've already passed the hardest test. You've learned to trust the wisdom God put within you. And now, instead of walking blindly down any road, you walk with purpose, knowing that your journey is guided by a higher hand. You don't have to trade your intuition for acceptance. You don't have to brush off the strange to feel like you belong. The world may try to make you a case study, but heaven has made you a testimony. Every step, every choice, every whisper of warning was part of your preparation. Now, as you continue on the path, you do so with eyes wide open and spirit awake, no longer willing to settle for comfort at the cost of your calling. You're not just surviving the experiment, you're outgrowing it and stepping into the extraordinary story that's always been yours. It's like walking into a room where one lamp is burning brighter than all the rest, drawing every eye in the place. The glow doesn't just fill the space, it pulls people closer, makes them wonder what gives it that extra shine, that warmth that stands out from the ordinary bulbs. In every crowd, there's always someone whose light is impossible to ignore, whose presence stirs something deep in everyone around them. That's how it is for the truly chosen. The people who get singled out aren't the ones hiding in the back row, trying to blend in. They're the ones with hearts so wide open you can see the sunrise in their smile. Their words linger long after a conversation ends, and their kindness leaves fingerprints on every soul they meet. Even in silence, there's something about them, a stillness, a knowing, a fire in their spirit that can't be faked or snuffed out. It's no accident that such people draw both applause and jealousy. Some are drawn like moths to a flame, just wanting to feel the warmth for themselves. Others, threatened by the brightness, try to shield their own eyes or even throw a little shade. But there are also those, quiet watchers, who don't come to admire or celebrate. They come to study. They want to bottle up that light, to take the oil from your lamp and sell it in the marketplace, as if what God put inside you could ever have a price tag. You see, the world is always searching for something it can package and profit from. The more rare the spirit, the more determined the collectors become. They look for those hearts that carry hope where others see only trouble, for those souls that carry wisdom in their wounds, for the kind of faith that stands up when others sit down. To some, all that depth, all that beauty, is just another vein to be mined, another secret ingredient for someone else's success. But what the world calls a resource, heaven calls a treasure. No mining company on earth can touch what the Lord has placed in the core of a chosen soul. You can't bottle the sunrise, you can't catch the wind, and you sure can't put a barcode on the grace that's been poured into your life. When you're singled out, it's not because you're weak, it's because you're carrying something too powerful to go unnoticed. Sometimes, it hurts to feel like you're being watched, measured, or even used. But chosen one, let me tell you, your light is not for sale. You weren't placed on this earth to be harvested or handled like a commodity. The very thing they want to take is the very thing God uses to lift you higher. Every attempt to siphon your glow just makes your roots go deeper and your spirit grow stronger. So if you ever feel like the rare lamp in a world of flickering bulbs, know that you're right where you're supposed to be. You are not inventory for someone else's profit. You're the lighthouse on the shore, guiding others through storms, whether they realize it or not. Your presence is a beacon, your struggle is your strength, and your light, no matter who tries to bottle it, will always find a way to shine through. Let the world come with its nets and jars, trying to capture what can only be given, never stolen. The chosen are not here to be used up and discarded. You are here to illuminate, to inspire, to remind everyone watching that what is divine can never be owned or sold. The gold within you belongs to a higher purpose, and every attempt to claim it for less only proves just how precious you really are. The operation behind the scenes went far beyond ordinary manipulation. Subtle observers transformed genuine connection into a game of information gathering. Every spark of intuition, every rise in spirit, every crack in the emotional armor was measured, sorted, and assembled into blueprints for machinery and methods no one outside the inner circle was meant to know existed. Love was replaced with data, affection with assessment. Records of these orchestrated encounters exist in hidden archives. Ledgers and logs, coded schedules and quiet evaluations, all part of a framework run by a cast of insiders who wore the masks of friendship, guidance, or authority. Each played their role, and the machinery of deception ran quietly in the background, its purpose to maintain the illusion while harvesting the real treasure, authentic emotional and spiritual energy. The betrayal cut deeper than broken friendships or failed romance. The gifts of insight, empathy, and love that set certain people apart became commodities in a secret marketplace. Behind closed doors, profiles were assembled, blueprints drawn up, and guides written to ensure the most efficient gathering and containment of these rare qualities, all without the awareness of those being observed. There are always others caught in the same storm. Many who shone brightly were drawn into similar webs, their paths intercepted and diverted by forces intent on siphoning their light. Some faded away, their energy suppressed by trauma and confusion. Others, mischaracterized and misunderstood, found themselves isolated from support. A select few, changed by their experience, were co-opted to identify and recruit for the very system that once targeted them. Those whose secrets are about to surface are not simply guilty bystanders. Their journey has brought them to a crossroads, haunted by the weight of their actions. The turmoil within drives them now to confess, not just from guilt, but because external pressure has made the cost of silence too high. As the walls close in, they seek relief in cooperation, hoping for reprieve, yet knowing the full reckoning is near. In their possession lies a collection of evidence meticulously assembled, every message dissected, every transfer recorded, every private word preserved and studied. There are files upon files, containing layers of analysis, hidden surveillance, and intricate measurements of unseen energy. These collections, kept not out of nostalgia but necessity, now become the instruments through which justice finds its course, pulling aside the final curtain. What started as a violation of trust will be remembered as the catalyst for a wider awakening. As investigations deepen, the links in this chain are revealed one by one, each confession and every document forging a path toward accountability. No plea or negotiation can erase the depth of the wrongdoing. What was concealed was too damaging, too systematic, and too broad for simple resolutions. Endurance, forgiveness, and the ability to transform suffering into wisdom are forged in the fires of adversity. Those qualities, which once marked someone as a target, now become the reason for their strength. Experiences once meant to shatter become the foundation for new authority, and every drop of pain transforms into an invitation for higher service. Where harm was intended, resilience rises up to shield others and ensure the pattern is never repeated. Negotiations now happening behind closed doors are not just transactions. They represent the larger balancing of forces that governs all things unseen. What was stolen must be returned with interest, and what was broken must be restored in greater measure. The new resources, no longer bound by survival, become fuel for a mission unburdened by old limitations. Institutions that benefited from the old system must reckon with the consequences, and every layer of complicity is laid bare. True liberation comes not from being acknowledged as a victim but in becoming the architect of change. Testimony offered with courage becomes the keystone for dismantling the machinery of deception. As the system crumbles, The hard-won insights and new clarity form the blueprint for freedom, protecting others and illuminating the path for those who follow. Hungry for timeless wisdom? Hit subscribe and feed your soul. The shockwaves ripple outward, prompting lawmakers and leaders to reevaluate what must be protected and how. Fresh discussions spark about the sanctity of consciousness, the dignity of the human spirit, and the boundaries that must never be crossed. New policies and ethical standards are born from these revelations, ensuring the next generations inherit a world less vulnerable to hidden harm. All along, the capacity to survive and grow under pressure was underestimated. No device or scheme could capture the full dimension of a resilient soul. What was meant to limit instead nurtured hidden strengths, and the journey became a testament to the impossibility of controlling authentic spiritual growth. The soul that refuses to be caged becomes a beacon for others seeking the same freedom. Every experience, every challenge, every setback is eventually seen in the light of a much larger pattern. Obstacles that once seemed arbitrary are revealed as calculated efforts to block progress. Yet, in time, every piece falls into place and the tapestry makes sense. As more awaken to these hidden forces, a global momentum grows, breaking down barriers and setting countless others free from silent captivity. Redemption is never an accident. The timing of every revelation, every moment of insight, was orchestrated far in advance. As truth emerges and the weight of old lies falls away, those who were held back find themselves stepping into the fullness of their calling. Empowered by understanding, they take their place as protectors and mentors, committed to the flourishing of all who seek a higher path. Ultimately, what was intended for destruction becomes the spark for renewal. Pain becomes a lesson, betrayal becomes a warning, and wounds become the doorways to wisdom. The stories that once silenced are now the voices that awaken a generation. The journey from darkness to light is complete when those who survive take up their torch, illuminating the way for the world to see that healing, purpose, and hope have the final word.